The classic IndyCar series enters the month of May. And, well, just about 24 hours removed from the IndyCar Grand Prix in the Verizon IndyCar Series, the Classic IndyCar Series has its own turn. In the Classic IndyCar Series Grand Prix of Indianapolis, boosted by Logical. Our coverage here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live, a part of Open Wheel Sunday, will kick off in just one moment's time. Once again, photo finish here of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Will it be Tim Hogan? It's going to be Christopher DeMerit at the line. Boosted by Logical, the Classic IndyCar Series welcomes you to the Cathedral of Speed, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, set on the corner of 16th Street and Georgetown, as we welcome you to what will be an enthralling race, round number 4 of the Classic IndyCar Series here on RaceSpotTV, streaming live on iRacing Live. Well, we're back home again in Indiana. One person couldn't make the trip. That was Jack Stiles. So instead, we're joined by Gary Weaver. Good afternoon, Gary.
Hello, Will.
Track time today, 85 degrees. It's kind of warm today at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. 7-mile-an-hour winds, 74% race relative humidity. And what that means, Gary, it's going to be tough out there. And because of that, strategy will become ultimately important. 85 degrees on the higher end of what we expect here on iRacing. It's a warm day in Indiana, and it will really mean that these guys are going to have a lot of issues on keeping those tires in their optimum range.
Yeah, looking at the 111 degrees of track temperature, that's definitely going to be a problem. So the thing that these drivers would have to do if they want to keep their tires optimum, I'd say take it really easy on the first few laps of this race.
Yeah, most drivers have already completed their qualifying laps. We're going to give you a rundown of the grid in a moment's time. One thing that's going to be interesting about today's race as well, standing start compared to the normal rolling starts we have. This is a harkback to the Verizon IndyCar Series when they do a standing start here. It's the only time at Indianapolis outside of Formula 1 we've ever seen a standing start properly here, Gary. and MotoGP. I just remembered that.
It's going to be quite interesting to see a standing start here. Even I have never actually seen a standing start at this track in general, so it's going to be most likely very chaotic heading down to the first 3 or so corners.
Yep, so most drivers have now qualified. Let's run through your starting grid for this round number 4 of the Classic IndyCar Series, boosted by Logical and in association with Joel Real Timing. Row number 1, Henry Bennett. He's your championship leader. He's got Matt Fretwell alongside him, 2 Club UK and Ireland drivers on the front row of the grid. Row number 2, Andreas Warner. Of course, he's our graphics guy at And1 Design. He's got Robert Grosser, the owner, the host of the Classic IndyCar Series, alongside him. Row number 3, Timo Isiniemi and Adam Shipstone. And then row 4 will be Ian Caljan and Austin Esparti. Row 5, Michele Constantini and Andrew Wood, with the rest of your qualifying results coming up on your screen. Down in towards turn number 1, Gary, it's a tight section, turns number 1 and 2, and that will mean these guys have got to get it sorted quickly. Even though it is a long run down in towards turn number 1, you don't want to be going 3 wide into that first corner.
Especially on the start of the race, I don't think you'd even want to risk going too wide, because everybody is trying to go for that same position and scrambling for whatever position that they can get at the time. So you just have to stay single file and get single file as quick as possible.
Yeah, and we have got ourselves 29 drivers in the field here today. Having a quick look at your championship standings heading into this event. Henry Bennett, 122 points. Michele Constantini has got 103, and that's a big gap then down to Marshall Stanley, who is currently in 3rd place. Hans Pitcairn in 4th, Sestello in 5th. We just cycled it through. Bad season so far. With Matt Cook and Robert Grosser, 2 drivers we both thought were going to have great seasons. And there you can see some of the rest of those championship standings up on your screen as we speak. So here we are then, back home again in Indiana one more time. Live timing and scoring will be available in this race once we get ourselves underway. And of course, in 6 days' time, we will have the 9th annual iRacing Indianapolis 500, which is the greatest spectacle in all of sim racing. But today, it's all about the road course. It's all about the Classic IndyCar Series. Lights go on top of the gantry. Standing start here today. Lights on. Let's say it. Lights out. Away we go here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Good start there by Bennett. A good start by 3rd place driver as well. As they come down in towards turn number 1, we see them all fanning out. Defensive line being taken then by Bennett as they come down into that first corner for the first time. And well, it looks as though we've got 1 car off already, 2 cars off already, but for the most part, we have got them all going. One of the drivers out, TM House, we've got Trollope going behind as well. But we do stay green for the moment. Another 35 machine involved in a bit of issues, but we talked about it potentially being a messy start. It has been a messy start here today in some respects, Gary.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate for some of these drivers. Some got turned around, some got heavy damage, some also went off track in the process, but for a majority of the field, however, did manage to make it through the first 3 corners.
Yeah, on board right now with Andreas Warner in the 06 machine as he heads himself then on the exit of turn number 12. This is when you can really go drafting. But Andreas Warner isn't that close right now. It's actually better to have a look at Matt Fretwell versus the driver of Henry Bennett. Fretwell had a fantastic start to this event in that 027 machine in 2nd place, able to hold on to that one as they come past the yard of bricks to complete the first of 77 laps in this event here today. And live timing and scoring will be available in just 1 moment's time in towards turn 1 with Fretwell. Your top 3, well, I haven't fully broken away from the field, but you have got a nice little battle going on. Austin Esparti and Robert Grosser, these are 2 drivers who are going to be fighting here today, Gary, and fighting in 6 days' time at the Brickyard when we go to the Indy 500.
Yeah, it's so much anticipation for the 500, but right now they have to get through this race, and well, as if one race wasn't enough, they might as well fight each other in as many races as possible. This is one of them, and it's definitely going to be pretty exciting to see what these 2 drivers can pull off here today.
Yeah, we're just having a look then. a little bit further back in your field. I want to just talk about people out this event because we've got a lot of people who's been on pit road early. Andrew Wood, David Costello out already. Michele Constantini out already. And actually, I want to have a look at the start of this event in a moment from Michele Constantini's perspective, because he's one of those drivers that really got involved in it. But before that, we go on board with Marshall Stanley, number 25 machine, the Dayglow Orange, paying homage, of course, to McLaren, but also to Fernando Alonso, who took part in last year's Indianapolis 500. And Marshall Stanley has got a lot of damage to the front end of that car right now, but he is still trying to put the pressure on as he goes up into P number 10, works himself past Jon Kaljan, and into the top 10 then will go Marshall Stanley.
So damaged although he is, or at least seemed like, he's still managing to pull off just enough momentum and enough car, at least, if you will, to keep going forward, thankfully for him. So it's going to be a long race, so about 77 laps, 2 hours maximum. It's definitely going to be interesting to see if Marshall Stanley can continue that little run that he has right now.
Yeah, there's a lot on board of Michele Constantini then in towards turn number 1. You can see he dove it down in towards turn number 1. That was Robert Grosser ahead of him, and then he just gets himself onto the kitty litter, and then as he comes back out onto track, that's what starts the big pandemonium around him. Just recycle that one back a couple more seconds, and here we are again. There's Constantini. And as he comes back on track, you can just see there's nowhere for a lot of these drivers to go. And that's what then causes the huge chain reaction, Gary.
Yeah, I saw it live, and it was absolutely amazing, but also devastating to see everybody just scrambling around, trying to figure out where to go. And some drivers made it through 3 wide, surprisingly enough, and some didn't. Some drivers went off, and, well, it was just on from there.
Yeah. On board Robert Grosser, just lost a position. Here we are having a look as here's Esparti going to come to his right-hand side. Esparti moves himself up into 3rd place then. Grosser down into 4th place for the time being. Timo Isinyemi, by the way, rounds out your top 5. And Andy Warner, after being in 3rd place at the start of this event, Gary, has fallen himself now down into P number 6. And Andy Warner has had such bad luck in the Classic IndyCar Series and the ISOWC Series over the years. He seems to have great starts, but always ends up either having an issue with himself or being caught in someone else's issues.
Hopefully this is the race that he can get some kind of good luck through this race, although it is a really long one, only slowly now coming to lap 5 of 77, but he does have Isinyemi in his side and within slipstream drafting distance, so maybe Warner can reel him in for that top 5.
Yep, so Warner trying to move himself back up. Retirees we talked about: Constantini, David Costello, Andrew Wood. Some people have been on pit road as well. Randy Shoemake, John Elsweimer, Nell McBride, Adam Shipstone, Johnny Garrett, and Benjamin Gregory. These are all drivers involved in issues at the start of this event. We've had ourselves side-by-side. Franz Josef Sturm then versus the driver of Carsten. Actually, I'll take that back. Yeah, it was Carsten Bodway. That's a 14th place on track. And ahead, you've got Andy Warner down to the inside then. Oh, Timo Isinyemi manages to make that one stick. A bold move into turn number 6, but he somehow makes it work.
I think they made contact as well, but that was an amazing opportunity. So he got one position down, now already in sights is Esparti right in front of him in that number 7. So if he keeps this up, then he's going to be set for pretty much this entire race.
I'll tell you one thing, there wasn't contact, but there could have been. Isinyemi then good heads-up driving. As we have a look at the replay on board of him, there you can see Andy Warner. Yeah, no contact. The two, though, almost came together. Isinyemi just deciding to push a little bit wide. And he's kind of lucky at that point in the track there, Gary, that you have got the runoff area. That's actually a part of the racetrack that they now use in the Verizon IndyCar Series version of the Indy Grand Prix layout. But also, it's one that so many hundreds of thousands, in fact millions of people over the years have walked down to get between the parking lots and the infield and towards turn 3 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
It must be absolutely amazing to walk on that portion of the track knowing that, well, for example, races like this where people have used them, sometimes amazing passes are made there, but Warner's closed the gap for the moment, but I'm not seeing. I think he's probably just going to bide his time and weigh it out just a little bit.
Yeah, on board right now, Matt Cook, currently in P number 12. Yoni Kaljan just ahead of him as well. Yoni has been having an interesting season. Matt Cook, some would argue a disappointing season by the number 46 Banshee Autosport Aero X Racing driver. Cookie can't do anything as they now come down into this Mickey Mouse section of the racetrack. This has actually been reconfigured now 3 times over the time of Indianapolis actually having a road course. For many years, the George family said, no, we're never going to have a road course race here. Then, of course, in 1994, they added in NASCAR for the first time, Gary. And even though a lot of people don't necessarily like the NASCAR race, it did really set the trend of Indy moving away from being just a home for the Indy 500 to being a more multi-purpose racetrack, as Cook is now up into P number 11.
Yeah, it's amazing that Indianapolis Motor Speedway decided to do that. Amazing job by Matt Cook to get to P11 there, especially since, again, like you mentioned, the Indy 500 for NASCAR, the Brickyard, I believe it's the Brickyard 400.
Yep.
So now adding, again, the Verizon IndyCar series and this series here on iRacing, it's just absolutely amazing to see what Indianapolis has become over the years.
Andy Warner side-by-side, Robert Grosser, P number 4, as they head themselves down the Holman straightaway. Andy Warner should have the inside line here, but he can't make it work. He has to settle still for P number 5, but Robert Grosser all over the place then, down into 10, 11, into 12, and all they've done here is they have lost themselves a mountain of time to Austin Espartee, and this all started about 40 seconds ago. And let's have a look then back to this situation, because Espartee had Grosser right behind him, and then Grosser pushed wide down at turn number 6, and what that happened as a consequence is it allowed Andy Warner to get past. We go back on board then with Grosser, and yeah, he just completely lost traction. This is what we talked about at the top of the show here, Gary. Some people are really going to struggle with tyres here today.
And pretty much on top of the back bumper, at least hanging down to turn 1 was Easton Nemi, so he's lost a bunch of momentum. He had the slipstream. He was going to make it 3 wide, decided to go behind Warner, and, well, unfortunately, I don't think he made contact. I'm not seeing any damage, so Easton Nemi lucked out there, but now it's just Warner and Grosser. But Easton Nemi has lost a lot of momentum for the time being.
Yeah, I mean, just to finish off our previous point as well, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, of course, hosted the Indianapolis 500, and then in 1994 added the Brickyard 400. In 2000, it added itself in Formula 1 MotoGP shortly afterwards. Of course, there's been 2 low points in the history of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. In 2005, that time when the Michelin tyres decided that they didn't want to work at Indy, and only 6 drivers started at 2005 Grand Prix of Indianapolis in Formula 1. And then in 2008, there was an issue as well with NASCAR. With same thing with tyres. It seems to be that the old lady doesn't seem to like other series apart from IndyCar, because it seems to be every time that track changes, she doesn't like the tyres anymore. And I think back in NASCAR, they were only able to do about 13 laps before they had to pit, which is about a third of what they could do under normal conditions. Hans Pitkinen up into P number 7, but Matt Molnar trying to go back down the inside in towards turn 1. Pitkinen looks as though he's going to have that one completed there, Gary.
That was close, heading down to turn 1. I thought they were going to make contact. Thankfully, they didn't, and they're still going forward, but I'm definitely not going to count out Molnar there in that number 29, that he's definitely going to be starting to come back after this road course portion, or maybe even in this road course portion of this track.
Yeah, and Mike Gerlicke, by the way, versus Franz Josef Sturm. This is going on track, and actually, Gerlicke might have a bit of a run coming up in a way, because Sturm just moved, well, really wide down in turn number 4. These tyres, we talked about the high track conditions, 85 degrees air temp. It's even hotter when you consider the track temperature, over 110 degrees Fahrenheit. To put that into the Celsius for the guys that like that, that is about 42, 43 degrees Celsius track temp. And you see the lock up there from Stern as Gerlicke is just ahead, just behind right now in P number 16. But let's turn our attention for a moment back to your race leader, Henry Bennett. He started to put away over Matt Fretwell, and the gap is 3.1 seconds right now. Having a look at the last lap times, he's pulling out on average a quarter of a second a lap.
That's an amazing job by getting this lead early on. That's something that Bennett needs right now as well, or could need, especially later on in this run. So it could pay off an advantage to him, especially, no doubt, when these drivers would have to pit at least some point during this race. I believe twice would be their maximum.
Well, yeah, as we'll think about these cars, actually, we will get the strategy for you right now. Pit window is about 27 to 30 laps in a full tank. But again, that will depend really on the downforce level. So 2 stops is the way. If it was a cooler track condition, there might be someone like Bennett, if he can continue to pull away, Gary, who might consider 3 stops. Only because the fact he'll have fresher tyres, and fresh tyres I think will be the big factor here today. If you are someone like Andy Warner, he's had a kind of poor start to this race, you might want to transfer your strategy over, either to go aggressive and try and work yourself back to the field, or just hold on, make these tyres last as long as they can, and do 2 short stints later on.
I would just say hang on, do 2 short stints, or maybe just be conservative in the first portion of this race, and then go aggressive in the last portion if you know that you can, if your tires can make it. So Warner right now is still, I believe he's either actually trying really hard as possible, and Grosser is just that little bit faster, or maybe Warner is just conservative, but also making sure that Grosser knows that he can still stick with him.
Yeah, one of the things as well about Robert Grosser is he has got to be a bit more conservative now, because he's had already 2 bad races in the season. So the drop weeks are over for Robert Grosser. He now basically has to get a top 5 minimum in each of the races this season that remain. Otherwise, there's no chance that he's going to be able to take another Classic IndyCar Series championship. But it's also worth noting that once you start playing it cautious, Gary, you actually get yourself into a situation sometimes when you get yourself into more issues. If you know you've had a couple of bad races, the best thing to do is to just put it to the back of your memory and just carry on. As Matt Molnar seemingly had an issue down in P number 11. As yeah, there's been a crash and there's been another driver go off as well. Let's get a replay up of this one then, as Matt Molnar is involved in an issue down in that number 29 machine, and this was into the Mickey Mouse section of the racetrack. As let's have a look. Number 25 car is around him as well. And he just loops it then, all by himself. But then another driver, I did see, yeah, just behind one of the orange cars, just going off at turn number 12 as well, Gary.
That's the number 87 of Adam Shipstone. Almost made contact with the 96, and Shipstone is in position 26 at the time versus the number 96 of Klaus Pearson on the lead lap. So not sure what the 87 was doing. Maybe just a little bit of momentum, decided to move, but couldn't really get in there at the last second. But other than that, he has decided to retire it as of right now.
Yeah, and one of the things about this racetrack as well, Garrett, is it is a short lap. Only about 1 minute 15 to 1 minute 17 on the lap times. And also, because it's a very technical track, you have a higher lap variance than what you'd have at most tracks of a similar size. And as a consequence, lap traffic will be a factor earlier, it'll be a factor for longer in this event, and that will make life harder for those people that do decide to try and do the free stopper.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult working around the lap traffic of the drivers here at this track, especially, again, with the race length and just how long, and possibly different strategies, since some drivers would be on different laps. Essentially, the lap traffic, it's going to be throwing a little bit of a curveball, and you just have to be careful on when you decide to pass that lap traffic, and hopefully somehow communicate with them to find the best passing opportunity.
Yeah, don't forget RaceSpotTV /timing for up-to-date live timing and scoring all day long. Don't forget, just after this race, we'll have ourselves also the final round of this season's Skip Barber 2K World Cup, presented by DES Simulation. Brian Lockwood has a chance of winning the championship, but he has to hope for a mistake by Philippe Leber. Catch that one as a part of Open Wheel Sunday here on RaceSpotTV on iRacing Live, and both races streamed in its entirety on Facebook Live as well. So Warner, we're just having a look then between himself and Robert Grosser. Gap still remains at 0.4 of a second. Now there's a difference between this car and some of the newer models as well, Gary, of the IndyCar, in that these guys do not have the push-to-pass available to them compared to the DW12 and the R18. They have got a fuel mixture knob. Apart from that, they've got the anti-roll bars, they've got the weight jacker. Weight jacker doesn't really work on a road course, but really, they just got to do it with their right pedal and their left pedal.
Yeah, it seems pretty simple. Don't forget the steering wheel as well.
Well, yeah.
That's also important, as, well, there's some portion of the lap traffic that these two work by. See, that's something that you have to hope for, that the lap traffic and you can smoothly get by each other, or whichever happens. So that's definitely a way to make sure that you stay out of trouble as best as possible. So the gap, like you mentioned, is still roughly 0.4 of a second, roughly the same, but I wouldn't be surprised if Warner is starting to just conserve a little bit more.
And that's the thing about this race as well, is that strategy is such a big part of it, because overtaking can be so difficult. Yes, you've got that huge passing zone in towards turn number 1, but the rest of the track, it's pretty difficult. Matt Molnar on board of him right now. He's stuck behind Jos van der Ven, and this is in the battle for P number 11 on track. TM Hauser is there in the mix as well. As you can see, the three drivers separated by almost nothing as they exit 12 and head themselves onto the banking once again. The difference between this track, of course, and the one using the Verizon IndyCar series is that in the IndyCar series race, they use a kind of modified version of the MotoGP layout that was used, Gary, in that they don't run from 12 through 13 straight past the start-finish line. They kind of got this Mickey Mouse chicane in the middle as TM Hauser moves himself up into P number 12 ahead of Matt Molnar.
That was a great attempt at a crossover from 29. There he goes to the left side. Gets a little bit loose coming through turn number 2, and, well, there goes that run that he had, still all over the back bumper now, trying to get by as Molnar.
Yeah, so Matt Molnar then, he's already 32 seconds behind your race leader. Let's see if we can get ourselves another look at that fantastic pass there by TM Hauser. Go on board of him. And you can see how far back he came from as well. I mean, he was about 6 car lengths back, moves himself to the inside, easy pass. Doesn't even have to lunge it into the corner. Matt Molnar, late braking then. And actually, TM Hauser did still overshoot the corner, and that allowed Molnar to try and get alongside into 2 and 3. But just that little bit of looseness through turn at number 3 meant that he couldn't actually capitalize on Hauser getting himself a bit tight into turn 4.
Yeah, it was an amazing opportunity at a crossover by number 29, so he had it, well, now not anymore, and all 3 of those drivers that were pretty much together just a lap ago are all spread out by pretty much an equal distance. It appears to be about 10, 15, 20 or so car lengths.
Yeah, let's go back to the Warner versus Grosser battle as the top 8 along the bottom of your screen. Grosser has a bad run this time by actually onto the Holman straightaway through turn number 6, but Warner wasn't able to capitalize. I think Warner has actually overdriven his tires on this first run. As a consequence, he cannot capitalize when Grosser attempts, well, when Grosser makes an issue. Bennett leads by 5 seconds now over Matt Fretwell. Austin Esparti in 3rd, Robert Grosser in 4th, Andy Warner 5th, then Timo Isiniemi, Hans Pitkinen, Marshall Stanley round at your top 8, with Matt Cook in 9 and Jos van der Ven in the 10th position. 96 machine is out of the event. What's happened there, Gary?
Well, it looks like Klaus Pearson unfortunately came up on a lap car of Jonathan Diggs, who got a little bit wide into the grass, and then Pearson had nowhere to go and completely destroy the front end of his car, decided to take a tow. So at the moment, Klaus Pearson is still sitting in pit road, probably getting that repaired. I would not be surprised, but he went from 10th now to what I'm showing on the timing is now 24th position, so 14 positions lost by him, and most likely about 3 more to be lost in just a few moments.
Yeah, here's a replay then on board with Klaus Peterson. Let's see what happened with him. As well, that's the thing. We talked about lap traffic already. As here we are there. Number 45 machine goes for a ride as well. And we talk about lap traffic and the fact it's so often here at this track as well. I mean, there's nothing really that Klaus could have done in that situation. He was already braking, already taking it easy, already anticipating the situation. But the thing about this track is you don't have the kind of tarmac runoff areas that you'd have at a track like Spa or Paul Ricard, for example, Gary. This is a track where it is still grass and gravel.
Yeah, it's quite unfortunate. I'm pretty sure that Klaus would most definitely would have wanted one of those runoff areas at that portion of the track, but unfortunately he just had nowhere to go, and unfortunately just slammed right into the side of that number 45.
Back on board of Andy Warner. Let's give a lap actually on board of Andy Warner. Give you a little bit of early RaceSpotTV fan immersion here, live from the Brickyard. Interesting note there. Andy Warner was hitting the rev limiter in towards turn number 1, Gary, and that's one of the issues. It's about how you set up your car for Indies. We had a car turn around there as well. That was a number 24 machine of Tyler Vickery. Replay on board for that one. But that's the thing about Indy. It's like you set your car to run up in clean air or set it to run in traffic, especially because of that long straightaway as Vickery. He literally just lost it under braking.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened. I was looking from the onboard of Warner, and I just saw a car go around, so I'm not exactly sure what happened, but losing it under braking, it could be a sign for tires, most likely.
As, let's not forget as well, we are about 8 laps away from that fuel window, that tyre window and fuel window being open. A lot of these drivers right now are going to try and conserve their tyres as much as they can here, Gary, but Robert Grosser, just ahead of Andy Warner, for example, you can see those tyres are already shot.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Grosser was trying to push the car just to stay in front of Warner as much as possible. Well, it is working, but to what extent? Because that would be completely destroying the tires already, and that gives Warner the advantage if he does conserve just enough tires to get by for that 4th place.
Also worth noting, Austin Espartee versus Matt Fretwell, side by side, turn number 1. Fretwell has it. Espartee did get himself past there for a moment's time, and he is passed again. Let's have a look at this one again. On board with Austin Espartee, a fantastic run through the banking then for Espartee versus Fretwell, and they changed positions 3 times in the space of 30 seconds, Gary.
Yeah, and Fretwell was looking to the right side, just coming into the back straightaway. Couldn't get it in time, but I wouldn't be surprised if Fretwell decided to get some type of an advantage and make a run over on the front straightaway, especially since they're just now heading back onto the oval.
Yeah, as here was Espartee, he got himself past, then Fretwell tried to go around the outside in towards 1. Couldn't do it, but they are back onto the banking as we speak right now. Let's have a look. Espartee is able to hold on this time by Fretwell is going to have to come from a long way back if he's going to try and make that pass, and he cannot do so. Get social with us, /RaceSpotTV on Facebook, @RaceSpotTV on Twitter. Like the video, share, subscribe, all that YouTube and malarkey. We want to get ourselves up to 10,000 subscribers, so tell your friends, because once we do so, we get ourselves the opportunity to have some fantastic opportunities working with YouTube down in London, and get ourselves the opportunity to present more original content for you, the iRacing community. We've also got a Patreon page, hopefully coming soon, so you can further support the work that we do here on RaceSpotTV, and also the great series that make up our schedule of lineups. So, Andy Warner and Robert Grosser, that one's still going on. Espartee, though, is up into 2nd place. I want to show you the movers in this event so far today here as well. Gary, one thing that's worth noting, Espartee is on the charge. He is up 6 places here today. He is, well, one of your biggest movers, but then you got Hans Pickenden. Actually, I'm going to stop here for a second. that slap traffic, so that's fine. Hans Pitcairn up 7 places. Marshall Stanley and Matt Cook are both up 23 and 21 places respectively, but a lot of that was down to the melee we had down at turn number 1.
I wouldn't be surprised if, but that's also something that has played out directly in their favor, as they've came from pretty much about the top 30, maybe 25th on back, all the way up to the top 10, 8th and 9th respectively. As I believe something has happened with the 134. I saw him drop down. And no, he's still going, so I'm not sure if he just had an off track or something. Yeah, he had an off track.
Yeah, actually having a look at the start from on board of Matt Cook. Almost going forward in towards turn number 1. Cook actually had a sluggish start, but that does help him in some ways, as you're going to see as this unfolds ahead of you. That is years worth of over racing experience coming into play then for Matt Cook, of course, running in the ISAWC IndyCar Series. Now in the Classic IndyCar Series, of course, also in the Indy Elite and 16 Street Racing Series over the years as well. It's always knowing exactly where to plant your car. Let's have another look on board with Hans Pitcairn, who also had himself a fantastic start to this event. And let's see it from Hans Pitcairn's perspective. On board. One thing that people will probably notice here is how a lot of these drivers are being very cautious on the start, Gary. These Indy cars and the IR05s are not used to standing starts. They're used to rolling starts on both road courses and on ovals. As a consequence of that, most people are electing to start in second gear rather than first and have the whole death wiggle that we saw, of course, in races in the Classic IndyCar Series, of course, last time out. Crazy restarts that we had in that one.
Yeah, these cars are pretty interesting to have some type of a standing start, especially since they're not built for it. Might as well try it out anyway, since the car itself, at least under the term IndyCar, is sort of used to it, but at the same time, not so much. As speaking of second, in most cases, Austin Esposito has fell back to third, and Fretwell has made his way by into second place, so that position has changed once again.
Yep. As we're on board with Austin Esposito, what are you trying to return the favor this time by? As we head ourselves down towards the yard of bricks, I think it's going to happen. Here comes Esposito then, up into second place. Easy job done then by the number 7 machine, who, by the way, is in my prediction for one of the 5 drivers who could win this year's iRacing Indianapolis 500, which will be on RaceSpotTV. Aggressive then for Austin Esposito. And of course, you've got to be aggressive when you get to Indy, because this is where dreams are made of, Gary. But that is exactly the type of move that Esposito needed to get himself some more clean air. Although they are now 8 seconds, almost 9 seconds behind Henry Bennett.
Well, you did mention aggressive, and well, that's what Fretwell was trying to do. He dove it in for a moment, then he decided to back himself out of turn number 1. He almost had that. He could have had he had the right side, but he just didn't have the momentum. But right behind them, I'm seeing 2 familiar names, so this may become a 2 separate 2-car battle to a 4-car battle for so much as 1 position.
Yeah, and I think the battle that's been going on between Esposito and Fretwell has allowed Grosser and Warner to get back into this one. Now, this is going to be interesting because that pit window opens in about 3 laps time. So if you're Warner, if you're Grosser, do you come in early and try the undercut here, Gary? Or do you just hold out and hope the fact that these guys, you know, are coming all at the same time and mess up on towards pit road? Or hope you find a dance partner? Actually, I say this. Here comes Andy Warner, looking down to the inside. Can he brake later? No, he can't.
He had a great opportunity there, but he just decided to maybe decide to not chance it there. He was probably trying that for maybe a later time, saying, okay, if I can do this, can I use it for later? And that may have been one of those times.
Yeah, as Warner versus Grosser, that's been a battle going on all day long here today. As behind, well, Cook versus Marshall Stanley. We talked about Matt Cook a little bit. He's been a big mover in this field here today. But Matt Cook, well, 9th place isn't the sort of thing you expect from a driver as established as Matt Cook. He's known as one of the most accomplished IndyCar racers of his generation, especially in the DW12. But he took a long period away from sim racing. He's come back, and this is a very new challenge for Cook, running in the Classic IndyCar Series, Gary. And, well, He's had some good results, but not as much on the road courses. And, well, even though the DW12 is similar to the IR18 in terms of the way it drives, the IR05 is a very different beast. And let's not forget, this car was designed when they were still going round on ovals, and they adapted the car, which is then the IR03, to the IR05 just to enable it to race on a road course in the first place. The first of those road courses being Watkins Glen, as actually Marshall Stanley's coming on towards pit road.
Looks like Marshall Stanley is going to be the one that's deciding to come in just a little bit early, pit speed 55 miles an hour. So he's going to be one of the first drivers to start off. And it's a little bit early, though, for the pit window, like you mentioned. That opens at about lap 28. So it's quite interesting to see what Stanley has in mind here.
Fuel safe. He's going to have to fuel save at this point. Probably about a lap's worth of fuel at some point, which is fine if you end up behind another driver. Out of pit road he comes in that number 25 machine. Pit stop time for him? Well, that's your first indication. 9.1 seconds then is what the pit stop time is for Marshall Stanley. That'll be a benchmark for future drivers as he exits himself out of pit road. Pit road here can get very complicated, by the way, because of the fact that you always merge onto the inside line of turn number 1. You got to be careful not to clobber a driver who takes the racing line. Stanley comes out. Thankfully, he's got a driver just ahead of him, and that is Franz Josef Sturm right now, but Matt Fretwell, and let's have a look at him and Austin Espartee again. Fretwell has actually dropped back now, almost a second behind Espartee, and Espartee has actually closed the gap down a tiny bit, and I say a tiny bit, to Henry Bennett.
Yeah, I mentioned that exiting pit road, it's going to be very, very crucial that you have to keep an eye on your surroundings and your mirrors to make sure that you don't, like you mentioned, accidentally hit somebody and forbid that they'd be on pretty much another completely different strategy. And I saw Warner tried to make a move on the front straightaway just a while back. Were you explaining that? Well, unfortunately, Warner couldn't get it, but he is still behind Grosser right now, and this battle is still ongoing. So maybe if they can't beat each other on the track, maybe they'll be able to beat each other in pit road. Yeah,
and that's always the thing. If you can't do it on track, wait until the strategy comes into play. That pit window is now officially open. Warner losing a couple of tenths of a second. We've got a car turn around. And that is Randy Shoemake. No, it's not Randy Shoemake, actually. I take that one back. That is Klaus Pedersen in the number 96 machine, who has already been involved in a couple of wars here today. Let's get ourselves another look. I think he's out of the event right now, Gary.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate, and it looks like he made contact with somebody, heavy contact even.
Yep.
That was with Matt Molnar. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, let's get ourselves another look if we can from Matt Molnar's perspective, and here we are having a look at him. Number 29 machine. Yeah, and Molnar's car has got itself some damage as well. Well, I mean, the good thing for Molnar is that we are in that window now when you can come in towards pit road and you can try and get some repairs done to that car, but he might be on there for a little while. We'll keep an eye on that one over the course of this event. Lap number 28 of 77 right now. Warner really close right now behind Robert Gross as they head themselves onto the Holman straightaway once again. He just loses a little bit then on the exit of 7. That means he can't get close enough to make the move in towards turn number 8. And downforce levels are an important part here today. And I've got a feeling that Gross is running a slightly lower downforce setup compared to Andy Warner, because Warner, even when he does get close, there's absolutely nothing he can do. As behind, by the way, we've had TM Hauser being passed by Jos van der Ven, and that's for P number 9.
I'm looking around and I'm seeing a driver in pit road. That's Matt Fretwell, the 027, from 3rd place. He has decided to come in. It's pretty much right at the perfect time because the pit window is now open. So Fretwell is already deciding to go in.
Yep, so Fretwell then making his first service of the day in the 027 machine. Bring that car on towards pit road. I know a lot of people who know the Classic IndyCar Series well always wonder, well, how much time's left in this event? Oh, it's Fretwell overshoots. We've only done 36 minutes of this event, so we are easily going to make it to time here, sorry, to the lap count here today. As Fretwell overshoots, and that costs him about 1.5 seconds plus there, Gary. 46.3 second pit stop for him. I want to compare that to the only other driver that's really coming to do a proper scheduled pit stop, and that was the driver Oh, in fact, a couple of them have now. Let's compare to Marshall Stanley, and he was 4 seconds slower than Stanley because he overshot his pit stall.
Yeah, if you don't think overshooting your pit stall would be major, well, there's your evidence right there, as it's very major. It costs you 4 seconds in pit road, and it costs you even longer on the track itself.
As Henry Bennett continues to lead. However, Austin Espartee has been closing over the last couple of laps. Let's have a look at the gaps, and well, he's closed a second on between lap number 28 and lap number 29, Gary. So Espartee's found a new lease of life. Maybe he was just protecting those tyres in the early going.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, as now Robert Grosser has decided to be one of the 2 drivers to head into pit road. So now this gives Warner a little bit of a chance as well. But right now Grosser is in pit road, but you mentioned Austin Espartee and saving tires. I would not be surprised, but I would definitely be surprised if Espartee can save just a little bit more than Bennett and beat Bennett in pit road strategy.
Yeah, and it's an 11.6 second pit stop there for Robert Grosser. 45.1 second overall, so slow pit stop then from Robert Grosser. And what that does is it does put him out right behind Matt Fretwell, actually, by about half a second, well, 1.2 seconds on track. The good news is for Grosser that Fretwell's embroiled in a battle with teammate TM Hauser as it stands. And this is a fantastic little scrap going on between TM Hauser and Matt Fretwell, as Hauser helping out his teammate big time, allowing him to be backed in. But all this is going to do is allow Andy Warner to get ahead on pit stops, as it seems. Hauser taking the defensive line on the home and straightaway. What's going to happen as they come down in towards turn number 8? Nothing. And TM Hauser hasn't pitted yet either here. So this is now really hurting Fretwell, but also in part hurting Grosser, as Henry Bennett is on towards pit road then from the race lead.
Yeah, Henry Bennett's in pit road. Austin Espartee stayed out, so those 2 individual battles, Espartee and Bennett, along with Warner and Grosser, those 2 drivers have stayed out, and they are now 1-2, Espartee and Warner. So they stuck out their strategy as best as possible, and that may mean that they've conserved just enough to maybe stay out, hopefully for them, 1 extra lap.
Yep, and that was Austin Espartee. Here is Andy Warner. Last time by 1:15.878. Want to compare that one to Robert Grosser when he comes past the line, not this time by, the next time by. Andy Warner, is he going to come in at the end of lap number 31? Has to take a very wide line then through turn number 12 to avoid running over lap traffic. Tightens through the corner. Will he come in? Yes, he will come in. You can see he's holding it down on the flat, on the apron, on towards pit road then. Will come the DH06 machine from Andy Warner. Slows it down to pit road speed. Robert Grosser, right now, we haven't got a comparable lap time by him yet. And we're not actually going to get one before this situation's all sorted out. But Grosser is ahead of Fretwell. Fretwell and Grosser almost going side by side once again. We talked about how Vortex drivers are helping each other out there between TM Hauser and Robert Grosser. But the thing is, yes, even though Grosser's now ahead of Fretwell, I think they're both going to lose out here to Andreas Warner. Warner is on the guns, and TM Hauser comes in. That releases Robert Grosser for the moment. But where is Andy Warner? Will he get out in time? It's an 11.1 second pit stop for the driver of Andreas Warner. It's going to be very, very close between himself and Robert Grosser. And Grosser will be side by side with Andy Warner. And Andy Warner is going to lose out to both of them. Or will he? Because that is the driver of Fretwell right behind him. They both going to get ahead of Fretwell then. Both Grosser and Warner. But Warner looks as though he's going to remain behind. And in fact, no, Warner's actually going to lose the position now to Fretwell because he was on the wrong part of the racetrack into 6.
Amazing action already, and this is just from pit stops, no less. But Warner does have another chance to strike here, coming down the straightaway to the driver's left side into the corner. Side by side now. No, couldn't get it done, actually. Decided to wait it out, could be for Warner.
Yeah, and here's a replay then coming up for you. And this was side by side through turn number 1, side by side through turn number 2, side by side into 3, into 4. And this is why we love the classic IndyCar series, because these guys race hard, Gary. But it's not often that we see these guys involved in big incidents. And well, TM Hauser did bunch the pack back up, but not to the extent that we thought that he might have done, as Isinyemi will come out of pit road after doing a pit stop time of 12 seconds then. So a long stop by him. That's going to drop him down into P number 6.
Shows how much that pit stops can cost you. Again, I'm seeing a majority of the field within about 10 to 11 second pit stops. Some got lucky enough to have a 6.9 second pit stop. That was Matt Molnar.
Yeah, as we're on board again with Andy Warner in that number 06 machine. So let's just have a look then through the field as well. This is the best battle we've actually got going on right now. And Matt Fretwell in the middle of it. He has lost that position now to Robert Grosser, and that was all due to the fact that he overshot his pit stall. And that's what we mean. You know, every part of a race is important, Gary. Everything you do on track, yeah, it's important. Pit entry, pit exit's important, but also at a track like Indy, you go from asphalt to concrete when you come into your pit stall, and that transition is far more difficult than many people give credit.
Yeah, it could be why Fretwell overshot his pit stall. He wasn't expecting that transition. He thought it would be easier, but unfortunately did not get slowed down in time, and that's what cost him. And that's why he's between Grosser and Warner right now, sitting here in 4th place. However, in general, 4th place, not too bad, but I'm pretty sure that he'd love to be up in the podium. And, well, that's with Grosser in front of him, as everyone is now closed up just a little bit throughout this part of the track right now.
Yeah, and let's have a look at your standings then. After the first round of pit stops are scored complete here, as it is Henry Bennett leading right now over Austin Esparti as Fretwell tries to run around the outside of turn number 6 over Robert Grosser. Grosser is now in the 3rd position. Matt Fretwell in 4th, Andy Warner in 5th. Then it's Timo Isiniemi in 6th place. Isiniemi, by the way, I want to keep a little eye out on the lap times because we think that he might be able to catch up and make this a 4-car train. Hans Pitkin in 7th place, Matt Cook in 8th. 9th place is Marshall Stanley, and 10th place is Andrew Adair Saunders. We're getting close to halfway then here in the Classic IndyCar Series on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. On Facebook Live, don't worry, we're going to turn the mics off, but you will still be able to hear us. And on Facebook, YouTube Gaming even, we're going to take you RaceSpotTV side by side. We'll be back in just one moment's time after we see the run in towards turn number 1. Because here comes then Fretwell to the outside, in towards turn number 1. He can't make it, but Grosser locks up. And Grosser then's going to put himself into a top position. And Fretwell down to the inside. And Fretwell will get himself then up into 3rd place. Almost 3 wide. Oh. And Grosser and Werner make contact in towards turn number 3. Well, I'm glad we didn't go to commercial there, Gary. Because now we've got a real battle going on. And Andy Werner, well, He's got himself a damaged front wing, and Timo Isiniemi is right behind him. Replay is needed.
Well, he didn't mention lap time comparisons. There are virtually identical lap times. The last time around, it was Isiniemi just about a 10th or so faster. But, well, with that, that's going to completely destroy the momentum that Warner had. They were almost 3 wide at one point, and Warner overshot thinking that he could make it stick.
Yeah. Let's get ourselves another look then from Andreas Warner on board of him in towards 1. And there we are. That was one. You're right. He just kind of pushed through the corner there. And they were almost 3 wide in towards turn number 4. But Warner just pushed through. Let's see if we can get ourselves one more look from on board of Robert Grosser. Yeah, Grosser was holding his line entirely there. Grosser has got some damage, but Andy Warner's lost 3.2 seconds already to Robert Grosser. But Isiniemi tried to make a pass a moment ago, and he couldn't get through there, Gary.
Yeah, I was watching it as well. I was going to say something, but I decided to let you work on the replay. But my goodness, Isiniemi, he had it, and then he just overshot. He braked a little bit too late, and, well, unfortunately, that just sent him back just a little bit. But if he could catch up to Warner once, he can do it again. And this time he has a little bit of help in front of him in terms of slipstream with that number 29 of Molnar in front of him.
Yep, so now we are going to take your RaceSpotTV side by side on YouTube Gaming. If you are on Facebook Live, don't worry if the engine sounds cuts out. We will be back in just a couple of moments' time. You're watching the Classic IndyCar Series boosted by logical, innovative engineering here as a part of Open Wheel Sunday. We'll be right back. Once again, photo finish here of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Will it be Tim Hogan? It's going to be Christopher DeMeritt at the line. We are just 6 days away from the greatest spectacle in all of sim racing. It is the 9th annual iRacing Indianapolis 500. It's here as a part of a doubleheader on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. It will be the Classic IndyCar Series, even the VRS GT World Championship and the Indianapolis 500. Well, Gary, we talk about it being the greatest spectacle in all of sim racing. It is the longest tenured event in iRacing history. It is the fastest event on iRacing. It's also one of the hardest events to qualify for. 4-lap average, and there's been times when people have missed out on making the broadcast race by 2 1,000ths of a second.
Well, it could have been worse. It could have been 1,000th of a second, but sometimes you just have to try your best and hope that you get the best lap time possible. But if you don't, well, just race that race that you make it into and hope that you can try again next year and just work as best as possible, get a lot of practice in. It's definitely going to be worth it once you make it in.
Matt Cook is one of those drivers hoping to get himself an Indy 500 victory for Banshee Aero X Racing, as he's right now behind Hans Pitkanen. We're going to have ourselves coverage of the final 2 qualifying sessions along with ourselves, chat with drivers, and also explain the emotions of the drivers hoping to get in and the drivers on the bubble. That'll be on Friday, immediately after our coverage of Friday Night Primetime, the Verizon IndyCar Series at Limerock Park. Our coverage of the race will be at 3:30 p.m. GMT on Facebook Live, going live on YouTube at 5 p.m. GMT for the greatest spectacle in all of sim racing from the Cathedral of Speed, known as the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's also my 5th time commentating, so my 5th year commentating the iRacing Indy 500. I've done 8 of these now, Gary. And I always say it's a privilege to call that motor race.
Yeah, in fact, I saw the Indy 50 earlier today, and it was absolutely amazing to watch. So definitely, I saw the lead swap about 3 or 4 times within so much as 1 lap or within a couple of laps. It was absolutely exciting, and it's definitely an amazing preview for the Indy 500.
Yeah, as Matt Cook, by the way, did get himself past Hens Pitkin and up into P7. Want to know a random fact, Gary?
Sure.
An iRacing Indy 500 broadcast race has never finished under yellow.
Oh my.
So yeah, and we've had so many famous final lap shootouts. We had it Nigel Marneve, we've had it with so many drivers, and of course Tim Doyle, as well as Young O, 2 years in a row. We had that with him. Cam Stark, for example, when he won the iRacing Indianapolis 500, that came down to the yard of bricks as well. You want a photo finish? Check out the iRacing Indianapolis 500. Of course, we are here on round number 4 of the classic IndyCar series right now. They're not doing an Indy 500 this year. They're doing a Pocono 500, Gary. And, well, you talk about the Triple Crown of motorsports in terms of over racing. You know, for IndyCar, it's always been the likes of Indy, Pocono, and either Michigan or Fontana, depending on what area you're living in. Pocono, though, is one of the hardest of them, as we just saw a car getting very loose on the exit of turn number 6, just keeping it on the racetrack, and that actually was not Andreas Warner. It was the number, I think, 53 machine, or 63 machine. I think that might have been James Payne, getting all forms of weird, and yeah, it was James Payne, getting all forms of loose on the exit of turn number 6.
Yeah, luckily he managed to lock it down and not hit that right side armor coat barrier. Thankfully he kept it out, but definitely at the cost of tires as well.
Yeah, and that is going to affect his tires. Of course, these guys do still have one more pit stop to make. Now, the interesting thing is they can make that pit stop from pretty much anywhere in the next 5 laps onwards. After they've got past the next 5 laps, they can do that and be good to go to the end. The thing is, this field has spread out a little bit, as we're going to take you now through the field here in the Classic IndyCar Series presented by Logical Innovative Engineering. We're going to start with the driver out front. That is Henry Bennett in the 007 machine. He right now has himself a 7.3 second advantage over Austin Espartee. We haven't talked about Bennett that much here today but the thing is, Gary, he's had himself a fantastic run, has led every single lap, 12 laps on this set of tires, and 7.4 second the advantage. He's holding it right now to Austin Espartee.
Bennett has done an amazing job so far this race, and well, it definitely would be amazing to see that 007 win this race, especially after this dominant of a performance here today.
Yeah, as you can see, his best lap time, 1:14.878, only actually about 3 tenths per second slower than his best lap time that last time around. Second place, Austin Espartee. He is one of your biggest movers in the field here today in that roller coaster number 7 Club New England machine. He has worked himself through the field here, Gary, and it's not just been through luck. He's made some great passes, past Robert Grosser, past Andy Warner, past Matt Fretwell to get up into that second place, and he's now got himself 10.9 second advantage over Fretwell in third.
Yeah, Espartee is definitely on a roll here today, and it'd be amazing for him to get that second place finish. Of course, just a little bit of a repeat from Henry Bennett, but again, it's just something that he well deserves if he can keep up this performance. But maybe if he can do just that little bit better and just maybe outpit Henry Bennett, Austin Espartee may be coming home with a win.
Yeah, Bennett has done 13 laps on his tyres so far. Espartee has done 12. And the best lap time today for Austin Espartee, 1:15.086. Let's go then and turn our attention over to third place driver. It's Matt Fretwell in the 027 machine. As we're just having a look at him right now, and his best lap time of the day, 1:15.167. Fretwell, though, he's been very good at defending positions because he had Robert Grosser on his coattails early. He's at Andy Warner right with him at some point. He's at Austin SPT with him at one point here today. He's been doing a lot of defensive driving, has Matt Fretwell, but he still has got himself a podium finish for the time being.
Yeah, even though he started in second position, it's only one position less than when he started, but at least he still finished in the podium, so at least he's still, at this point, projected maybe to finish in the podium position. So if Fretwell can, again, keep up this performance, and he can either get by SPT or maybe outpit both Bennett and SPT and shock everybody and come home with that win.
Yeah, it's worth noting, by the way, he has got longer on his tyres than anyone else inside the top 8. He's done 16 laps on this set of tyres. Over to Robert Grosser. Of course, he was involved in that incident with Andy Warner about, 7-8 laps ago now. But Robert Grosser is running in 4th place, and that could have been heartbreak for Grosser, not only in terms of this race, but in terms of the championship. As we talked earlier on, Gary, he's already used his 2 drop weeks in the start of this season. So now he's got to be clean all the way through. He is running in P number 4. We don't know how much damage there is to that car, however. And also, he's got to finish this race in at least the top 5.
Yeah, at the moment, he's definitely in a good position to stay within that top 5. So if we, again, keep up this performance, and not sounding like a broken record, but it's true, you just have to keep up your performance, and if you can outpit somebody, then in that case, you're good. That should be the strategy from pretty much here on out. But of course, he's got Warner not too far behind him in the process, about 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, he is. They are about 1.483 at the last time he'd been there between Robert Grosser and Andy Warner. Let's talk about Andy Warner, though, because he had a good start to this race, but then he binned it, lost himself a number of positions, and has not been able to gain them back really since. And this has been one of the issues of Andy Warner. He's been very good at times in the Classic IndyCar Series, the same way as he was in the ISOWC IndyCar Series, as he was in the 16 Straight Racing League and in the Indy Elite Series. But when he gets involved in issues, they seem to compound over the course of a race, and the same things happen today. And there's a lot of damage to the left side pod of that number 06 machine, as he's actually on towards pit road now. So he's taking the early strategy, getting the repairs done as quickly as he can, to then have as fresh a car as he can at the end of this event, Gary.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Like you mentioned earlier, it's, well, I had it at the top of my head, but I will mention it later. But like you mentioned, it's something that's, you just have to have a clean race for. So hopefully Warner can make his way into his pit stall just fine, fix the damage as quick as possible, and get out back on track. So hopefully he can outdo everybody on strategy here at this point, but he will be on more worn tires if he chooses. And yes, he is choosing to take tires here in this pit stop.
Yeah, take some tires, get some repairs done to that race car as well. 8.5 out and away. So he had a lot of fuel in that car remaining, about 3-4 gallons. But he does come back onto track. And the important thing for Warner, I would say, he's in clean air as well. So that will help him a little bit, as he's the first one to blink and do his second pit stop of the day. Live timing and scoring, by the way, is available. Visit RaceSpotTV/timing. Let's then talk about Timo Yemi. He's now in the 5th position as well. He was a driver involved in a bit of battle so far here today in that number 33 Vortex sim racing machine, as he's doing a good job, though, in P number 5 right now. 14 laps on his stint as he comes past the yard of bricks. Let's make that another lap, as I've completely lost my camera stuff there for a second. It's all back. We're all good. But Yemi running in P number 5 for Vortex.
Yeah, pulling off this top 5 finish for Vortex would be absolutely amazing for him and his team. But right now he just has to hang on and hope that he can get his strategy down, especially with the pit stops. If you're good on track, you just have to make sure you're even better in pit road. Yeah,
then P number 6 is currently Matt Cook. Cook has moved himself through the field here today after what was a miserable qualifying here for him, Gary. And that's not what we expect from Matt Cook. We talk about his accomplishment as a part of Banshee Aero X Racing, the number 46 machine. One of the most well-known people in that IndyCar community for a number of years. Took a 2-year absence from IndyCar and from iRacing, came back and he chose the classic IndyCar series to run in, and he's 38 seconds behind your race leader now. But let's not forget, Cook was always a better driver on the ovals than he was the road courses. To be in P number 6, that is some accomplishment by him, as he actually then just had to avoid that lap traffic. That's a number 53 machine again going off.
That's actually the 63. But
sorry, take that back. Yeah,
yep.
James Payne.
But for Matt Cook, he's, again, doing an amazing job. He went up 23 positions ever since the start of this race. And, again, remember that first lap, those first few corners where all of that happened. And then the few laps from then on, and also pit road. That's how Matt Cook got to where he is now, as he's going to make a move to the right side of Randy Shoemaker. He's, let's say, number 3 is just going to land by. But right behind him, Matt Cook may want to worry just a little bit.
Yeah, because Hans Pitkinen is currently within a second of Matt Cook in that number 8 finish car. Then let's actually have a look at Pitkinen. He's currently 40 seconds behind the race leader in that number 8 machine. And while Pitkinen, again, is a driver who's worked himself up a number of positions here today, and he is not afraid to get into a fight. You can see a little bit of double steering then, but a lot of Finnish drivers, you've seen them do that. Micro adjustments through the corners, especially under power. Having had a couple of Finnish teammates in the past, they do like to adjust even the steering wheel on that car.
Yeah, it's something that I'm honestly not even close to familiar with, but it's quite interesting to see what strategy and what kind of steering that these drivers use, especially from all different portions, different clubs here on iRacing, seeing what different strategies of steering. Never thought I'd say that in my life, but different strategies of steering. It's quite interesting to see what somebody uses for steering strategies, I guess, is the only word I can think of right now.
Yeah, we've got a very big announcement actually coming on RaceSpotTV as we talk about that one. Pitkinen, well, that's not what you want to do.
What?
Down in towards turn number 1.
I have no idea how he managed to even save that, but, well, he's got the number 25 of Stanley looking to his left side. Not anymore, but looking to the right side. Still can't get it done. Nothing as of yet. Just have to get through this next few portions of corners, and then, well, for then on, Pitkinen should be fine. But that was an amazing save. Speaking of steering, I've never seen that work out before.
Yeah,
so that was a
drift.
That's an amazing job. Yeah, that was amazing. Well, never mind. Left side. There goes Stanley.
Yeah, down to the inside. And of course, Pikkinen's going to be careful after really overheating those tyres. He will lose the position to Marshall Stanley. Stanley, again, he's had an interesting race here today in that number 25 machine. Now up into P number 7. He's a driver we don't often talk about much, because he's always in that kind of mid-pack, not often in the huge battles. But Stanley's doing a great job in that number 25 California machine, of course, using that Dayglow orange that was so memorably used by Fernando Alonso in last year's Indianapolis 500, Gary. But also this orange as well, a hark back to the original colour for McLaren.
Yeah, it's quite interesting right now as these two are side by side, and well, looks like Pikkinen's just going to let him go, and flying up on the left side of Pikkinen is going to be Molnar, almost making contact. That would have been devastating. Pikkinen's got 2 lap cars behind him, but it's amazing, an amazing tribute from Stanley to put that Dayglow orange on his car. So he is now the second and, well, one of the 2 drivers that have went up 23 positions. The other one was Matt Cook, who's also up 23 positions. So it's quite interesting that we have 2 drivers up 23 positions that are pretty much tied for the most positions gained in this race.
Yep, Joe Carlson on pit road in the number 77 machine then. 11.5 second pit stop, out and away he goes. Just to let you know, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, Joe Real Timing will present a free JRT key to the driver with the least incident in this event, with the exception of Vortex Sim Racing drivers, because, of course, they have a partnership with Joe Real Timing already. So on the ovals, we get to pick driver of the day. On the road courses, it's simple, Gary. Whoever gets the least incidents gets themselves a nice little bonus prize.
Yeah, it seems easy enough. That's actually what I'm using right now, as well as Stanley now has to pit road. And yet I was looking, that's something that JRT is amazing for, is I can look at something else, but I can see on timing that Stanley's went to pit road, so it's very, very useful software.
Yeah, it is. So Marshall Stanley is going to come in, do himself his second service of the day. And he'll be out and away in 10.7 seconds then. A fast pit stop then for Stanley compared to Carlton a moment ago. This will keep Stanley ahead in terms of that one and that battle that was going on for the time being. Other drivers that's worth talking about. Let's have a look at Andrew Adair Saunders and number 4 machine. Quiet race so far today for Andrew Adair Saunders. Last pit stop time 10.6 seconds. 23 laps into his stint. Let's head that self over to 24 now, Gary. But Andrew Adair Saunders, a quiet race doesn't always necessarily mean a bad race.
Yeah, it's not too bad if you just have a semi-decent race to finish mid-pack. He is 9 positions up, so technically it's more of the top half of this field. As you've had 33 drivers take the grid. I'm seeing 22 that are on track right now. So for Andrew Adair Saunders, he's doing an amazing job. Of course, like you mentioned, quiet race, but not too bad. It's a pretty decent performance. Hasn't been involved in anything major, so that's not too bad of a race. It's very, very decent.
Yeah, Henry Bennett, 22 laps now into a stint. Let's go on board then with the driver of Henry Bennett. Give you a lap on board. RaceSpotTV fan immersion coming up. One minute 15, 4:20 that time by for Henry Bennett as he now works himself onto lap number 55 of 77 here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, coming up in just under 1 hour's time, it'll be the final round of the 11th, I think, season of the Skip Barber 2K World Cup here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. We head ourselves over to Donington Park. Brian Lockwood versus Philippe Leber for the championship. Brian Lockwood can get the championship, but Philippe Leber has to make some form of a mistake. Catch that here on RaceSpotTV, on iRacing Live, on YouTube Gaming and Facebook Live, a part of Open Wheel Sunday. And I will say one thing, guys, I love the fact we've got 2 races back-to-back here, really showcasing the best of open wheel racing outside of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series.
Yeah, it's amazing to watch other series compete here on iRacing. It's just simply amazing to see what kind of what different drivers have different strategies, and especially the semi-differences, I guess, if there are any, through open wheel racing across each and every series and showing what each series can do and standing out in its own way.
Yeah, of course, the difference between these cars and the Skip Barber is that basically these cars have got themselves nice, big, chunky, fat Firehawk Firestone tyres, whereas on the Skip Barber, they pretty much run on street tyres. There's not a lot you can change on those cars as well. As by the way, Austin Espartee in for his second pit stop of the day. So, Espartee then, on towards his stop. He's been involved in battles all day long here, Gary. But this is an important pit stop. Espartee's on well, and it looks as though he's going to be off well. And I'll tell you one thing, Espartee's done so many races at Indy that he knows that transition between the asphalt and the concrete pretty well.
Yeah, an 8.9 second pit stop is what I'm seeing on JRT, so very, very, very amazing pit stop and great time. I think I beat the quickest, quickest one was a 8.1 second at least, although that's not counting the 5.1 second pit stops that Warner had, so yeah, not sure if that was through tires or fuel whatsoever, but nonetheless, that's a great stop for Espartee.
It is indeed. He's out into P number 6, and importantly, he's got a bit of clean air, and the fact that Matt Cook's ahead of him as well. Matt Cook is no slouch, so this will mean that SPT shouldn't get bogged down as the other drivers will come on towards pit road momentarily. Here's Henry Bennett then, making himself his pit stop, his final pit stop of the day. He's been flawless all day long here. So, here's Weaver on towards pit road, final pit stop of the day with 21 laps to go.
Up on the jacks, off the jacks now, waiting for him to go. He's on it, and he's out of his pit stall. Luckily, his pit exit is right there, so 5.2 second pit stop for Bennett. Any traffic in front of him? Nope. Well, almost just around him, actually, on the outside. Driver's left-hand side was TM Hauser, so Bennett has a nice little bit of a buffer right now as he's only fallen back to a 4th place position right now.
Yeah, and importantly, he still stays about 7 seconds ahead of Austin Espartee, so no issues then for Henry Bennett unless the driver really does charge. We don't think that will be the case. Matt Fretwell will become your race leader for the time being. We go on board of him as well. His best lap time today has been 1:15.161. His last lap time, 3 tenths per second faster than that one. But we expect him on towards pit road in the next couple of laps. In fact, he's going to come on towards pit road now. After 28 laps, here he is, going to slow it down to 55 miles an hour over that bump. And that bump, Gary, I don't know if you've ever driven it on the oval layer as you come out of pit road, is always a pain in the backside because you normally hit what I like to call critical RPM at the same time. Coming on towards pit road, it just gets that car losing all of its steering. So you've got to be so careful as you attack pit road entry.
Yeah, it looks like Fretwell almost lost control. I've driven it on the oval portion, but that's just exiting pit road. I never even noticed that it was there up until now. So, quite interesting as Fretwell slowed down a little bit more than extra in his pit stall. He went forward, slowed down, and then he stopped. So, that's going to cost him just a little bit of time as now he's out of his pit stall. 9.4 seconds is what I'm showing on JRT.
Yeah, and let's not forget, this is a driver who overshot his pit stall the first time around. So he went from being ultra aggressive to almost ultra conservative there. 42.8 on the lane. I mean, it's still faster than some drivers around him, but 6 tenths per second slower than Henry Bennett by comparison, who was only 2 tenths faster in terms of his pit stop itself. So Fretwell lost himself about 4 tenths per second just by being cautious. The thing about Fretwell is, however, Grosser, I think it's not going to be that close between him and Grosser, although Grosser is coming on towards pit road this time. No, he won't. Grosser's just taking that ultra inside line there. That's confusing because most drivers will rather arc out the banking.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Grosser is thinking. Maybe he's trying to keep as much momentum as possible. Maybe that's something that he's figured out, but I'm also not sure. I've never really seen that before, so maybe it helps out with the tires of some sort. I'm honestly not 100% sure, but it's quite interesting to see Grosser run that kind of a line.
Yeah, Matt Cook right now in P number 5, although he hasn't made his second pit stop of the day. He has been passed by Austin Espartee. We talked about that one being important in some ways because of the fact that Espartee, of course, has made his second pit stop of the day. And I think Cook just allowed Espartee to get past when he got up to the rear of him. So good sportsmanship there from Matt Cook. Ironically, he's got Glacier TV on the side of that car. That company's not been going in 4 years. We're talking about throwback liveries there, Gary. That really is a throwback livery.
Yeah, I've not heard Glacier TV since a long time ago.
Yeah, I think I actually did the last broadcast on Glacier TV. That was many, many years ago. Of course, RaceSpot started on pretty much Valentine's Day in 2000 and I need to get this right, 13. It's been a long, long time actually for that one. Just going to talk to Jake Sperry as we can. We have got ourselves the final round of the 2K World Cup presented by DES Simulation coming up in just 52 minutes time here on Open Wheel Sunday. Simo Riccignemi has got himself the lead for the moment, but that is on strategy only. Jake, it's a battle for the championship, but it's going to require a magnitude of issues for Philippe Laber to lose it.
It certainly is, Will, and you look at the championship, which has been incredibly interesting, which has about 30 points here or there, a difference between Laber and Lockwood. We've seen Laber all season long have this ability to have a poor race, but everybody else have a poor race around him. Somehow he has the lead of the championship. I don't know how, but it's a mark of a champion to be basically running in your second best gear and still able to pull out results.
Yeah, and I think back to 2010 and actually the iRacing season when as soon as World Power crashed at the Cafe de Brazil Indy 300, it was a case of Dario Franchitti basically having to just bring the car home inside the top 10. The same thing applies here today. For the driver of Felipe Leber, he's got to bring it inside the top 10. He'll be fine, Jake. And that's the thing when you've got to be aggressive, but not too aggressive. And remember, there's a bigger thing at hand, as otherwise you could end up losing something that you seek so dearly.
You certainly can, Will, and we see it in all racing that everyone has this idea of it is basically, do you want to go for the nice little pudding that you get after your meal, or are you too full to eat the rest of the meal that you already have available to you? You can't have both, you can only have one. And I think that's where the issue comes along for a lot of drivers when they look to try and close out championships. And I think it's a skill that's not really taught because not many drivers get an opportunity to go win championships, Will.
Yeah, I will say at that point, you've never been to me to a Chinese buffet because you have both. Even though you're so full, you still have both. As Robert Grosser, by the way, comes out in 8.7 seconds. So catch Jake Sperry and myself for the final round of the 2K World Cup presented by DES Simulation here as a part of Open Wheel Sunday on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. As Robert Grosser say, 8.7 pit stop. He's behind Andreas Werner all of a sudden here. So that's a bit of a weird one. Although, actually, no, I take that back. Werner has yet to make... no, Werner made his pit stop early, Gary. So, actually, Werner is ahead of Grosser on track. But, of course, Werner is on 14-lap older tyres with 16 laps to go. And we do think Werner might have to do a tiny bit of fuel saving.
Yeah, and speaking of fuel, that's what Robert Grosser took. Only fuel. I didn't see him go up on the jacks, so that could be another factor playing into this. So if Werner can save just enough and finish in front of Grosser, that'd be even better. But Grosser didn't take tires as compared to, I believe, Werner did just on his last pit stop. So he did actually. That could be playing into effect, and maybe just a slight advantage to Werner minus the fuel saving.
Yeah, Matt Cook right now 1.3 behind Austin Espartee. However, he is 30 laps into his stint. We do expect him to come on towards pit road this or next time by. The same about Timo Isinniemi and Hans Pitkänen. Pitkänen, of course, had that Japanese drift style run through turn number 1. Timo's actually going to stay out and do another lap. That'll bring him up to 30 laps on this stint as he works himself then past the start finish line with 16 laps to go here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Fantastic camera angles, by the way, thanks to Andy Warner and And Warner Design. Henry Bennett in second place as Matt Cook is going to come on towards pit road this time by. So Cook is in. Pitkänen is in as well. So here we are then. Pit stops again. And this will then define what our top 5 is going to be coming on towards the last 15 laps of this event here, Gary.
Yeah,
oh,
Matt
Cook
overshot his pit stall. Yep, that's going to cost him.
Wow.
Well, up on the jacks and off the jacks now, he's going a little bit of a delayed go as well. That could also cost him ever so slightly. We can use Pitkänen if he doesn't overshoot, and Pitkänen is just fine. He doesn't overshoot, but that's going to be very, very devastating. A 3-second pit stop for Cook, apparently, and the 7.5 for 7.4. Okay, JRT has not yet updated that pit stop time, so that one's on me. But Pitkänen has a 7.5.
Yeah, it's 43.4 seconds end to end there for Matt Cook, but he is now 12 seconds behind Robert Grosser. So any chance then of Matt Cook trying to get himself into the top 5 is pretty much done for now, because Cook is, as I say, 12 seconds behind Robert Grosser. Timo Isinniemi is going to work himself then in towards doing another lap number 31 for Timo Isinniemi in that Logical Vortex sim racing machine. Well, it has been a good day for Isinniemi. I'm just trying to work out where he might feed out. And he will feed out in that gap between Robert Grosser and Matt Cook as it stands right now.
That'd be very, very great for Isinniemi, especially since I believe he's one of the only drivers that has only made only at least one pit stop so far. So yeah, he is. So if he times his pit stop correctly and he doesn't have any mistakes, he's going to be pretty set for the rest of this race.
Yeah, he should come out around P number 6. That's what we're predicting here. As everyone, of course, behind him will move up one position. So let's have a look then. Timo Isinniemi, he should come on towards pit road this time by. Indeed, he will do. So let's have a look then. RaceSpotTV fan immersion on board with Timo Isinniemi. Nicely in. Off the jacks. And it's not even 5th place, it's 4th. But Timo Isinniemi, he comes out ahead of Andreas Warner by 1.1 seconds. Fantastic pit stop then. Fantastic strategy by Timo Isinniemi.
That pit stop was 40.4 seconds while the entire pit laid, and including his pit stop, that was fantastic. Remember what I said about no mistakes? Well, that is definitely an example of it. So now, I think Isinniemi has the advantage for the rest of this race, unless he can catch, unless Henry Bennett keeps that lead that he has right now.
Well, the thing is, let's talk about this one, because between himself and Andreas Warner, yeah, the gap's 1.1 second, but Andreas Warner is on tyres that are 18 laps old. So actually, Isinniemi doesn't need to look behind him right now. He's got Matt Fretwell, who's 9 seconds ahead on 7-lap older tyres. Now, it will be a big push, but we've seen Fretwell make an incident here today. We've seen Fretwell's car get a little bit damaged here today, Gary. This could be Isinniemi looking for a podium.
I definitely would not be surprised, Will, if somehow Isinniemi lucks out and gets to that 3rd place position. But right now, looks like we're going to have to wait one more lap for a lap time comparison between Fretwell and Isinniemi. But it's definitely going to be quite interesting, especially since, well, like you mentioned, Fretwell has a little bit of damage in 7-lap older tires. That's definitely going to play into effect ever so slightly.
Yeah, we're coming to 10 to go here then on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. We'll be back in 90 seconds time. Yep, just 3 races left then for IndyCar on ABC and on ESPN, but they are still the home of the Indianapolis 500 for 2018. So catch qualifying next weekend on the ESPN playouts. Watch ESPN and, of course, also on ABC with the 102nd running of the Indianapolis 500. Start time for that one, 11 a.m. Eastern time there. Telecast presented by Firestone. As well, we're here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on the road course. I want to give a shout out, by the way, to Adam Bestwick, to Scott Goodyear, and to Eddie Cheever for all the work they have done with IndyCar and ESPN. We also say the same to Dr. Jerry Punch, to Rick the Brule, to Jan Beekes, as well as, I'm missing one person, Marty Reed, of course, who is the host of IndyCar and ESPN. We've had some fantastic names over the year. Lindsay Zarniak, for example. Brent Musburger, hosting Indy 500 coverage. Brent Musburger has done pretty much everything imaginable, Gary. And so many names are part of the Indy 500 on ABC and on ESPN. And yes, on one hand, we've got to be sad because let's be honest, it's become a tradition over the years.
Yeah, the Indy 500 is definitely an amazing event to watch, especially from, I believe it was last year. I'm not sure who, surprisingly, but I know somebody got up into the catch fence and flew up into there. That was quite interesting. I've never seen anything quite like that in an Indy 500. So, in terms of racing itself, however, it definitely produces its amazing share of unexpected or most anticipated winners.
Yeah, of course, 2019 NBC Sports Group taking over coverage of the Indianapolis 500. In fact, all races will be on the NBC Sports Network with, well, so NBC Sports Group of families, even with, I think it's more races on NBC than ever, on broadcast television than ever before. And Lee Diffie calling Indy 500 is one thing I'm absolutely salivating about as well. Austin Espartee then closing up to the rear of Henry Bennett in towards turn number 1. The gaps, well, they're static. One lap, Bennett pulls away, and the next lap, Espartee pulls it back, Gary.
Yeah, essentially these drivers are pretty much equal in terms of lap times, and almost quite literally, except last time around it was Bennett that was about a tenth faster than Espartee, 15.137, and then a 15.265 for Bennett, so, or sorry, for Espartee.
Yeah, as we will keep an eye out on this one over the course of the last couple of laps here. Don't forget, by the way, you can get social with us /RaceSpotTV on the Facebooks, at RaceSpotTV on Twitter, of course. Like, share, subscribe on YouTube, do all those things that apparently we have to do on YouTube to make ourselves more popular. But again, if you're after Indy 500 coverage, in terms of the iRacing version, the 9th annual Indy 500 pre-race show and exclusive coverage only on Facebook Live through our YouTube, through our Facebook Live channel even. Andy Warner, Timo Isinniemi. I thought that Isinniemi was going to pull away. It's not actually been the case. Andy Warner took 3 attempts out that last lap by, and he is closing down. He's within a second now of Isinniemi in the battle for P4.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Isinniemi is losing time or he's playing conservative right now, but so much for not worrying about who's behind him, but now he may have to start worrying as Warner's appears to be slowly closing into that slipstream zone. And at this point, you're pretty much just barely on the tail end of that. So he just has to get a little bit closer for Warner. But Isinniemi has to get going pretty much right now, especially since, well, Isinniemi's on fresher tires.
Yeah, and one thing I did notice, though, that Isinniemi is faster through turn 12 and then run down towards the start-finish line. In fact, he get about 4 tenths of a second in that process. So maybe Andy Warner is just using a higher downforce setup here today that is better in terms of the tires, but as a consequence of that, he loses straight line speed.
Yeah, that could be it. You could be sacrificing the straight line speed for all that, and I'm not honestly that surprised, as well. This is pretty much the only straightaway, the back straightaway, and then you have, well, the NASCAR Turn 2, NASCAR Turn 1, and then the front straightaway of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So it's not exactly a large straight line. It's not even a straight line, essentially. So apparently that would mean that Warner is just a little bit faster inside the road course section, while Isinniemi is faster on the straightaways.
Yeah, let's actually have a look at the speed for Andreas Warner right now. 170 miles an hour. I'm just having a look at the gap at the same time as they come past the start-finish line. He is losing time, actually. He's losing a tenth, 2 tenths. Yeah, he's losing himself about, I would say, about 6 miles an hour down the start-finish straight, and that's what's going to hurt him. Even if he does get into the draft, I don't think he'll be able to get himself past overall. And the thing also is, I talked earlier on, I thought Andy Warner was hitting the rev limiter coming into one.
Yeah, I believe you did mention that as well, and I was looking at the speed for Isinniemi. He peaked at 177 just before the corner, while Warner peaked at 172 miles an hour. So that is going to be something that's going to be playing into effect to see if Isinniemi can possibly pull away, or if Warner can catch up to Isinniemi in these closing laps here.
Battle for 13th place, Andrew Adair Saunders in the number 4 machine versus the Tequila Patron number 88 car of John Elmsweimer. This is going on track right now, and having a look at the lap gaps between them, it is actually the driver of John Elmsweimer who is closing up to the rear of Andrew Adair Saunders. He's got himself 6 laps ready to do it now. But again, it will come down to who's the fastest driver on the exit through 12 down towards the run towards 1.
Yeah, see if Emswiller can catch up and use that slipstream to his advantage here, as looks like he is within the distance. So if he sticks full throttle and stays right behind that back bumper of Adair Saunders, and he will. Looks like he's going to get the run. Can he get down into turn number 1, left-hand side, I should say, he goes as they head down to turn number 1. Who's going to brake first? Looks like it's going to be Adair Saunders, side by side. 88 of Emswiller pulls away with it, still sticking to the side. It's going to be that number 4 of Adair Saunders, so he's going to get that position back, and they're still side by side. Just coming out turn number 3. As if nothing even happened.
Yeah, and the thing also that's worth noting is A, TM House is now in that battle, and B, oh, look at that. That's a big lunge there by TM Hauser in towards turn number 6. But also, it was very good driving by Andrew Adair Saunders. That was an Indy 500 veteran move. Hold the middle of the racetrack. Make it so if they want to go down to the inside, they can do so. But don't give them enough room that they can actually then sweep up and make the arc into the turning, into turn number 1. But also, don't just run it all the way up to the wall either. But now we're going to have a nice little freeway scrap as we're going to come on the exit of turn 12 towards the yard of bricks once again. They're running out of lap times here. Elmsweimer, let's see what he's going to do again this time by. TM House is a little bit further back on board of Elmsweimer. As here he is then. Again, middle of the track this time for Andrew Adair Saunders. Elmsweimer again will take the outside line. In towards 1, and here's TM Hauser. Let's go 3-1 in towards 1. And he's going to lose it. Will be Andrew Adair Saunders in the middle. He tried to break it. He lost it. He loses 2 positions. Replay on board of him. And well, we always think that something can happen when we go 3 wide at Indy. Be it on the road course, be it on the oval. But we go on board then with Andrew Adair Saunders. We have a look from the rear. Going to see 2 drivers go past him. The first one is going to be John Elmsweimer, and then we're going to have TM Hauser make it 3 wide in towards turn number 1. There's the car to the outside. There's the car down to the inside, and there's Andrew Adair Saunders. He just locks the brake there. Absolutely just locks the brake up in the 3 wide situation. Pressure getting to Saunders there, Gary.
Yeah, he was doing so well, and I guess he just wasn't sure if Hauser was going to be there on the right side, so unfortunately he locks the brakes up, probably deciding, I'm pretty sure the brake lockup, though, was either because he's braking too hard, maybe he wanted to let TM Hauser by and get those 2 drivers back, coming out through the Isle of Bricks through the corners once again, but unfortunately that didn't seem to happen for Saunders, and now, well, he's been sent back just a couple of positions, and, well, that run they had is now pretty much gone in this case.
Andreas Warner lost time that last time by, but had continued to gain until then. By the way, if this was a Grand Prix distance, the race will be over. But this is an IndyCar Grand Prix distance. We still got 3 laps remaining in this one, as Marshall Stanley and Johan Kaldron will be going at it side by side. Let's get ourselves a quick replay of that one, as they still remain going at it. And that was on the banking through IndyCar turn number 1, as they work themselves past the yard of bricks in towards that first corner on board with the number 77 machine. As in towards the first corner, he gets himself ahead on the outside line. And that's a good thing about turn number 1 and 2 here, because it loops back on itself, and then again, it becomes a right-hand corner in towards turn number 3. It does mean you get some fantastic racing, as Kaldron does have to remain in 10th place for the time being. But that battle is not over, as they work themselves into the Mickey Mouse section once again. And, well, this will be a battle for the last 2 and a bit laps to go in this event, Gary.
Yeah, I was looking to the right side, was number 77, and, well, he couldn't get it done. Look at that advantage right there to the right side. That was absolutely amazing. So now he and Stanley are going to be side by side now, heading through the Isle of Bricks. But this could give the advantage to Stanley. No, they're going to stay side by side. Stanley could get the slipstream here and get them back right into turn number 1. Looks like that's going to be the case. No, he's going to stay side by side now.
Yeah, and Kaldron now does have the inside line, so he can try and dictate the run through the corner a little bit more. They are still officially side by side in towards turn number 1. Oh, look at that one. Aggressive, late braking with the number 25 then of Marshall Stanley. He's able to hold on to P number 9, but not without a fight. By the way, for Kelvin, I think that's the best I've seen a driver be through turn number 12 all day long. But they have now got Henry Bennett behind him, who has a lap and a half to go.
Actually, this race was just about 2 or 3 more laps longer. I want to see how this battle's going to play out. It was absolutely amazing to watch these two.
Yeah, as Carson Bordelais versus Jos van der Ven, side by side, and Jos van der Ven will get himself past Carson Bordelais, moving himself up the position. Kelvin's dropped back a little bit, but does he get a good run through 12 once again? Yes, he does. In fact, I think this is the perfect compromise for him. Don't be too close in the run on the exit of turn number 12, but don't be too far back either. Now, you're going to have to go around the outside if you're Yoni. We are going to come to the white flag lap this time by. So, 1 more lap to go for your race leaders. There will be 2 more laps to go, though, for these guys as they head themselves past the yard of bricks towards turn number 1. White flag officially out. Henry Bennett right behind this duo. And Yoni, well, he will actually get a run. Don't make contact because Henry Bennett is right behind you. But Jörn Carlsen will get himself up to P number 9. Oh, they make contact. And Carlsen gets pushed off the racetrack then on the final lap of the motor race as well. These guys will still have a lap and 3/4 to go. But actually, no, because of the fact that Henry Bennett is now ahead of Yoni, this will mean that this is also now his final lap of the event. So that will mean that as it stands, Marshall Stanley will get himself P number 9. In the meanwhile, here is the driver of Henry Bennett. He's been able to withstand the pressure, even though Austin Espartee set the fastest lap of the day that last time around and got the gap down to 3 seconds. It doesn't matter if it's 3 seconds or 3/1000ths of a second. It's whoever leads at the yard of bricks who gains themselves an IndyCar victory at Indianapolis. Henry Bennett then works himself out of turn number 13 for the final time. He will be a winner here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and it will be Henry Bennett who claims victory in round number 4 of the championship. Austin Espartee will come home in 2nd place. It is worth noting that Marshall Stanley did actually get put a lap down to the drive of Henry Bennett as well, so that battle is really over for P number 9. Andres Warner, Timo Isinniemi to the line. Andy Warner can't get there. He remains in P number 5. Timo Isinniemi in P number 4. Great race here today, Gary. Great race. And Henry Bennett, well-deserved victory by him.
Yeah, that was an amazing performance by him. I'm still watching the battle between the 88 and the 56 right now. I don't think Amswaller can do anything as of right now as they head to the Isle of Bricks. Not enough time. So that's going to round out that little battle there. I saw the positions swapping there on the final lap. It was most likely in the first portion of that road course. But for Henry Bennett, that was an amazing performance by him. I think he led pretty much almost every lap here today. I think about 70 laps.
Yeah, he did. He does not get the Grand Slam, however, because he did not get the fastest lap of the day. That actually will go down to the driver of Austin Espartee. Let's have a look then at your final race results from this round number 4 of the Classic IndyCar Series. Well, it's Henry Bennett who claims victory by just under 3 seconds. Henry Bennett claims victory by just under 3 seconds from Austin Espartee, with Matt Fretwell coming home in 3rd place. Timo Isinniemi in 4th, and Andreas Warner rounding out your top 5. Some big movers here today, Austin Espartee being one of them. Robert Grosser up 6 places. Matt Cook 7th, and then Hans Pitkin in 8th. He's also a big mover here today. Marshall Stanley in 9th, and then Jörn Carlsen in P number 10. Of course, we saw that battle between Stanley and Carlsen handing up into your final couple of laps. Behind, you've got yourself Jos van der Ven in 11th, Carson Bordelais in 12th, and Tim Hauser in 13th, with John Elmsheimer in 14th, Andrew Adair-Saunders in 15th, as the drivers scored 1 lap down. By the way, we only had ourselves 8 drivers scored on the lead lap. Drivers scored 2 laps down: Matt Molnar, Mike Gerlicher, Franz Josef Sturm, and Benjamin Gregory, with Randy Shoemate classified as 3 laps down in 20th position. Johnny Garrett Todd Nosebad and James Payne round out the drivers who finished this race. In fact, James Payne didn't. He was actually 27 laps down. And then your retirees, Tyler Vickery with Klaus Peterson, Andrew Aitken, Caleb Weekly, Jonathan Diggs, Adam Shipstone, and Noel McBride. They round out your field with these 3 drivers as well. 33 drivers took on the challenge of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course, but only a few of them finish on the lead lap. We're going to step aside for a few moments here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. When we come back, it'll be post-race interviews as we build up to the 2K World Cup as well, coming up in 25 minutes here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. We'll be back in a few moments' time. Here of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Will it be Tim Hogan? It's going to be Christopher DeMerick at the line. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, the Skip Barber 2K World Cup presented by DES Simulations will be taking place in just under 25 minutes time here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. Join myself, Will Vinson, and Jake Sperry for that one. But in the meanwhile, we've had a fantastic race today here in the Classic IndyCar Series, boosted by Logical Innovative Engineering. Will Vinson and Gary Wheeler here for our post-race coverage. And well, Gary, it's been a great race overall. We've seen some interesting passes, seen some interesting strategy, but it's been one guy out front, though, who basically dominated from the get-go.
Yeah, that was definitely the most amazing dominance of a race that I have seen, and that was Henry Bennett. That was absolutely an amazing performance. So I am actually very surprised that Henry Bennett did not, well, not exactly very surprised. I'm surprised that Henry Bennett actually managed to stick out there for that long, Will.
Yeah, as he is standing by with us now here on RaceSpotTV as your winner here today. And well, Henry, the road courses have been doing you very well here in the Classic IndyCar Series in 2018. That 007 machine once again on Victory Road.
Yeah, thanks guys. I'm really surprised myself to even be racing today, let alone to have the pace I did. I was out last night till 6 a.m.
Good boy.
And yeah, really surprised that, and hadn't had much practice with the old Delara here, but I'd had quite a lot with the new car, but they drive so different at this track. It's night and day. But with my team, we found something with the setup at the last minute, and it gave us a bit of pace we needed to bring home a 1-2.
Okay, most important question. Where were you last night until 6 a.m.?
I was out with your mates in a nightclub in Shoreditch.
Oh, God, you're in Shoreditch? Let's move on. So the race here today, you led 70 of 71 laps, we believe. Got yourself pole position. You didn't get yourself the trifecta, however, because Austin SPT stole that fastest lap away from you at the end. But it did seem to be that SPT was closing you down in the last 20 laps or so. Were you worried at all?
Oh, no, I was more worried about the battle of the lap down cars ahead of me. It was getting pretty hairy. I was just letting them have their battle. I didn't want to get involved, and there was quite a nice gap behind me. And I did mention to Austin that I might slow down for these guys. There's no point trying to pass them. And he said, yeah, you should. And in the meantime, he placed the fastest lap. So a little annoyed at that.
Never trust a teammate or a friend ever. First rule of racing, isn't that? I mean, let's not forget, there's been some historic ones over the years. Ayrton Senna, Alain Prost, Didier Pironi, Gilles Villeneuve, Rubens Barrichello, Michael Schumacher, of course. That went completely wrong in 2002 when Barrichello accidentally won the motor race. But in terms of the championship here, of course, you came in, and we're going to show the championship results heading into this event one more time. You came in with a nice leader in Michele Constantini. Well, Constantini here today, he finished down in 31st place. Marshall Stanley, he finished down in 9th place. Hans Pitcairn finished down in 8th. You're going to have yourself a big lead in the championship as we head out of the month of May here in the Classic IndyCar Series. Does that give you any comfort at all?
It's always reassuring to have a big lead, but as we saw last year with Lucas, it means nothing when it gets to the end of the season and drop weeks come into account. I think I might need to miss 1 or 2 races coming up, so it's nice to have that buffer now. But you can't count on anything, especially with Michele's pace on oval and road now.
And of course, the next round of the championship, we go to the traditional home of the round after Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It is, of course, the oldest operating racetrack in the world, the Milwaukee Mile, for round number 5 of the championship. It's a 1 mile oval, but it's very different to New Hampshire Motor Speedway. It's standardized banking, and, well, basically those tires are going to take a beating. You looking forward to it?
I enjoy Milwaukee, but I'm never really that strong there. We'll see if we can get a good setup and have a good showing.
Well, before we let you go, who do you want to give a shout out to from your team there, Henry?
Andrew Wood, Niall McBride, and Austin SPD. We all worked on the setup today. Yeah.
Henry Bennett coming home with the race victory here today. And Austin SPD, he comes home 3 seconds behind Henry Bennett. A little bit cheeky at the end there, but he stood by with Gary Weaver after coming home in second.
Well, Austin, you had definitely done an amazing job sticking with Henry Bennett in one way or another, finishing 3 seconds behind Henry Bennett there in the last lap. That was an amazing job. Started 8th, finished in 2nd. I'm pretty sure that those pit stops definitely helped out.
Yeah, the pit stops were really good. I didn't think I was going to have that much pace. I came to practice with like 25 minutes to go. I actually forgot about the race. Joined in and I was struggling. I could barely complete like 5 laps in a row and race trim. And qualifying surprised me, and I had a decent start. Then I had a fun battle with Matt there for a little bit. Then after the first pit stop, I just had a 10-12 second lead and just chugging along, keeping pace with Henry. And when Henry wanted to slow down, I was kind of encouraging him to slow down even more so I could at least try to make a run for him, but it was still fun.
So of course, also with the 111 degree track temperature, at least in Fahrenheit that is, I'm pretty sure that your tires took more of a beating than you expected.
No, actually they were not bad. I found more grip towards the end of the stint than I did have in the beginning. The wear was never really, tire wear wasn't really never an issue for me. Henry had +2 weight jacker on for like half the stint, which seemed to make him faster, and then you didn't realize that, then I did it and I was going faster too. So definitely seemed to help. Tire wear in these cars seemed non-existent compared to the new car, which is here at Indy Road this week, and I was struggling, so I thought I was going to struggle here as well.
Luckily you didn't, and so much for Will saying that the weight checker doesn't do anything on the road course. So, well, it did do something.
It shouldn't do anything on a road course. You're exploiting the system.
Well, that was definitely an exciting race. So, before we let you go, Austin, any shouts that you'd like to give to friends, family, teammates?
Just Henry Bennett. He really just gave me a setup within 20 minutes ago, and he built it, and it was really fast and stable through the entire run. It's just him, Niall McBride, and Andrew Wood.
Well, we're going to go ahead and let you go. Congratulations on your second place finish here, especially after starting 8th. That was an amazing performance by you and Henry.
Thank you.
That was Austin SPT, then second place here today. As we're going to head it over to third place, Matt Fretwell, who came home in third after qualifying in second place here today. Well, Matt, crazy start to this motor race. You got yourself into a good rhythm, but you end up losing out to SPT at the end. Talk us through your motor race.
Oh gosh, there was so much going on in that race. I think I had a bit more downforce than everyone else, so I was suffering down the straights, but that enabled me to overtake around the corners quite well, so just lacked overall pace compared to SPT and Henry, unfortunately, but still a good race.
What's the trade-off between running low downforce and high downforce here? Because we've seen it on the World Championship Grand Prix Series yesterday with some drivers taking a high downforce setup compared to a low downforce one. We've seen it here today, and I think we saw at 1.6 mile an hour difference between certain drivers past the yard of bricks in towards turn number 1. How do you make the decision on whether to take high or low?
I didn't really make the decision, unfortunately. I'd only been in the car for about 2 hours before this race.
Were you out until 6 o'clock in the morning as well?
No, unfortunately, nothing fancy. But hey-ho. But the trade-off, you put more downforce on the car, you go slower in a straight line, round the corners you're faster, in the braking zones you're faster. So fortunately, I was able to make up for time round the corners and in the braking zones, but just lacked straight line speed compared to Henry.
Well, you come home third place here today. Next race out will be the Milwaukee Mile. And I'll tell you one thing. I once spent a weekend in this car doing about 1,400 laps. Still couldn't get the hang of the place. It's such a difficult racetrack. In fact, I would call it the hardest oval there is on iRacing. Not to put any pressure on you, but what do you think you thought it's going to be in a couple of weeks' time?
I'm not actually supposed to be here. I'm just filling in for my friend Ryan, who's sadly broken his arm. So I'm not sure if I will be racing in 2 weeks' time. Would love to, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see.
Yeah. Well, of course, get better soon, Ryan, because, you know, broken arms. I mean, I have actually known one driver race with a broken arm before. That was on a road course, and that was Gil Guez. We'll talk about that one in a moment, because Robert might be able to bring us up to speed and confirm that one of me. But, Matt, before we let you go, you want to give a shout-out to?
I'd like to say thank you to Ryan, thank you to James and my teammate, and, yeah, thanks to you guys for putting on a great live stream. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Matt, for coming home in third place here today. Okay, we're going to do rapid fire time here now on RaceSpotTV. We're going to start it off with Robert Grosser. Robert, before we go any further, was it teammate Gil Guez who had a broken arm and raced at Watkins Glen once in an IndyCar?
A teammate of Vortex?
Gil
Really?
Guez.
Ah, right, yes. Jesus Christ, I almost forget that one. Yeah, that was incredible, wasn't it?
Yes, it was one-armed around Watkins Glen International. I think that was a couple of years ago on Friday Night Prime Time. But your race here today, P number 6. You've been up and down in it, been in the wars a little bit. You and Andy Warner had a little bit of a ding-dong. Talk us through your race.
Yeah, it never got really boring, I have to say. It was nice. It was some nice fighting with Andy, with Matt. And very exhausting in the end. It was really hard to keep the focus.
Next time out will be at the Milwaukee Mile. And I say it's such a tough oval racetrack. Are you looking forward to it, or are you about as scared as I would be?
No, I'm not scared. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm hoping to score big points, and I think I can do it.
Well, Robert Grayson then coming home in P number 6. Right behind him, Matt Cook, P number 7. Cookie, it wasn't a great qualifying for you, but you worked yourself through in the race.
Yeah, absolutely, Will. Starting at the rear of the field really made it a little bit difficult to work my way back up. That first lap was definitely interesting, but made it through. Didn't get any incidents, and I'm happy with the result.
Next time out, Milwaukee Mile, is old man Krosno going to give you some advice, or do you think you've got enough on your own to get victory?
Yeah, definitely going to take some help from Randy on this one. He's got a lot more experience, and looking forward to it.
That is Matt Cook then coming home in P number 7. And finally, Andrew Edersoners, P number 15 here today. Well, Andrew, not the kind of... Oh, no comment at all from Andrew Edersoners. So we're going to just wrap things up here then from the Classic IndyCar Series. Gary, well, thank you for being a part of our coverage here today in place of Jack Stars. Thoughts about the Classic IndyCar Series?
Yeah, this was absolutely amazing. Watching this made me want to race in this, but I'm not too good at open setup, so I'd rather do a commentary for this instead. This was definitely amazing to watch.
Well, before we say goodbye, there's a couple of people who we will like to thank here on RaceSpotTV. I just need to do one thing very quickly on a graphic. There we are. We can then say thank you to the following people. Of course, Istvan Balal, TrackCams22.com, and also to Andreas Warner and One Design, the official graphics partner of RaceSpotTV. Simon Grossman, Actioneering.com for ATVO and overlay development, and of course, Nick Thisson for RaceSpotTV, live timing and scoring. We are going to take a 2-minute commercial break, and then it'll be build-up time for the 2K World Cup here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. Thank you to Gary Weaver. Jake Sparrow will be joining me on Open Wheel Sunday in just a couple of moments' time. Goodbye from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We'll be at Donington Park in just a few moments' time. Once again, photo finish here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Will it be Tim Hogan? It's going to be Christopher DeMerick at the line. One half of Open Wheel Sunday is complete here on RaceSpotTV, and in just one moment's time on YouTube Gaming, we are going to welcome you over to coverage of the 2K World Cup